Hey guys, welcome back to the coffee bar. It's been a while since I've done a little breakdown and a sipping review, so I do apologize, but I've been working on some editing things and it'll start coming out in my future videos. I appreciate y'all's patience and I appreciate y'all watching the coffee bar lives. I've definitely enjoyed doing that and interacting with you guys. But today we are gonna do a breakdown of the episode 6 of WandaVision. Absolutely awesome, and guess what? Yes, I do have a drink. It is the WandaVision. Check that out. It's a beauty. I will be posting a video that'll be connected in the link below. It'll show you how to make this absolutely great. So let's break this baby down. So episode 6, also known as the Halloween Spooktacular episode, has a lot of Easter eggs, guys. So let's just go ahead and dive into this thing. We start off with kind of off that cliffhanger with Quicksilver showing up, and it was absolutely awesome. You guys, please insert all your theories in the comments below, because we get this and we get Darcy's comment of being recast. So we'll get on that here in a second, but check this out. So now we all know that in Marvel's universe, Aaron Taylor Johnson plays Quicksilver, but instead who shows up is Evan Peters. So I had my own theories about what's going on here and why that happened. Did it open up the door to Fox's X-Men? Will we see Magneto? Will we see McAvoy as Professor Xavier? Does this open up the multiverse here? But in this episode, we kind of see something a little bit different going on, which is going to be interesting, and we'll talk about it here in a few. So cool thing is, we start off this episode, after that cliffhanger, we start off this episode with a Malcolm in the Middle kind of esque intro. And guys, I don't know if you all paid attention, but I actually put in the words to the song. And if you pay attention to the words in the song when it's actually coming on, it's actually kind of telling you what each person, how they play a part in this. So Tommy and Billy, aka Wicked and Speed, are kind of running around with the video camera, and the words start off, actually I got them right here in my notes here. It says, it shows Wanda, and she's kind of like brushing her teeth, and one of the boys has actually shown the camera, and she kind of closes it with her magic, and it says, "Don't try to fight the chaos. Don't question what you've done." This is the song that's playing in the background. It says, "The game can try to play us. Don't let it stop the fun." So what I speculate, this is my thoughts on that. Y'all tell me what y'all think. What I speculate is it means that, yes, Wanda is kind of controlling this with her powers, but I feel like something else is going on beneath the surface. I think everybody believes that we have one character or another, and we'll get to that at the end of the video, that is actually manipulating Wanda in some type of way, or just pushing her to do this. And it's saying, don't question what's happened. That's what the song is telling her. Don't question what's happened. Just enjoy what's going on right now. You got everything that you want. So it's kind of ominous in this song, and go back and listen to it if you want. Then it shows Vision, and it says, "Some days it's all confusion, easy come, easy go. But if it's an illusion, sit back and enjoy the show." So in that, you can see that Vision, especially through these last 2 episodes, that he's trying to figure out what's going on. It's actually really confusing, and he doesn't understand, especially in the last episode, where Wanda's now all of a sudden using her powers in the open in front of Agnes, and Agnes is kind of frightened, like, "Do you want me to start over?" And you know, they have this kind of almost standoff at the end of the last episode, and she tries to shut the whole thing down, the show down, and you see the credits, and he's like, "No, you're not just gonna roll the credits and kind of go from there." So that's what I'm thinking with Vision, how it's just kind of telling him, stop thinking about it too much. We got what we want. That's coming from Wanda, I believe. And it's like, just sit back and enjoy the show, man. And then it shows Agnes, and it says, let's keep it going through the distorted day. And it says, let's keep it going twice through the distorted day. The boys run up on Agnes, and they're like face deep in the camera. And I'm thinking that means that Agnes is part of keeping this whole charade going. Now, we're going to talk about her at the end of the episode as well, because she plays a major part in helping Vision kind of see what's going on here as far as how it's affecting everybody else outside of his immediate family. And then lastly, it shows Pietro, and it says, though there may be no way of knowing who is coming by, the play-by-play they show, and then they show Pietro kind of running around. So it's kind of telling you we don't know who's going to show up next. It could be another person that shows up as well at the end of this, but you never know. And it shows Pietro, and it says he's playing himself. So, dude, just off the intro alone, you get a bunch of clues to what's going on, how everybody's kind of feeling, and what's going on. So then we open up with Wiccan, and he's dressed as himself in the comics. If you go look on Google, you can actually see that he's actually dressed in his comic book version of himself, the twin, and it's actually pretty cool because him and Speed are actually walking around doing Malcolm in the Middle-esque monologue where they're breaking the fourth wall, which is pretty cool. And they're just kind of doing a little bit of banter back and forth. And, you know, Speed is kind of picking with Wiccan, telling him he's the Dorkosaurus Rex or whatnot. And it's just kid banter, but it's pretty cool to see that they're bringing in the Malcolm in the Middle fourth wall breaking type thing. So we kind of progress, and they kind of unintentionally wake up Quicksilver, and he runs around, he's playing with the kids. And while all of that is happening, you actually see Wanda come down, and you hear one of the boys make a joke saying, "Are you old Red Riding Hood?" which I thought was pretty funny. That was pretty good from a kid. And she's saying that she is a Sokovian fortune teller, which technically, if I'm not mistaken, in the comics, their adoptive mom was like some sort of a fortune teller. And then also with that being stated, you know, she's also in her old school comic book getup. She's dressed as, you know, the Scarlet Witch or whatnot, instead of the new MCU version, which I like to call back to the comics with this episode. And Pietro is kind of like, yeah, this kind of reminds me of this time when we went trick-or-treating when we were kids, and he's dressed up as Nick Fury, which is pretty funny in itself. And then she's dressed up as maybe the Wasp, old school Wasp, because she does have the little curly things, but it could just be a butterfly. Maybe I was looking too far into it trying to find all the Easter eggs, but it did kind of remind me of the old school Wasp, the way she was dressed. And this is the first time she's like, I don't quite remember it like that. And but we kind of move forward, and Vision comes downstairs, and he's dressed in his old school Vision costume. So it's a whole bunch of throwbacks in the beginning to the comics. And he comes down, and he's like, well, I don't have anything else to wear. And Wanda kind of looks at him like, uh-oh. But he's like, you're so incorrigible, and I know that you like Mexican wrestling or whatnot, because he does kind of look like a luchador in this outfit. So the crazy thing is, she thinks they're gonna go trick-or-treating together, and Vision's like, nah, I gotta go do this neighborhood watch thing, because, you know, I gotta make sure that the kids don't go wild, throwing the tissue in the trees. And Wanda's like, that's not what you're supposed to. And he's like, what? Because they've already had this standoff where he's told her, and this is a callback to the previous episode, where he's already told her, you can't control me like you control them. And she actually asked him, can't I? And it's kind of like, I mean, I could if I wanted to. That's kind of what the vibes that she gave me when she kind of got upset when he said that. And it's kind of a callback to that. So instead of Wanda kind of pushing Vision to do what she wants, she kind of is like, well, you didn't tell me your plans. And, you know, he kind of sterns up and says, well, I'm telling you now. So you kind of feel this tension, and Wiccan actually says this. He's actually saying, you know, mom and dad haven't been, you know, themselves since my uncle came, and then they're kind of talking to the camera, especially Wiccan at this point. So they are actually running. They run along, kind of speed past that, and Vision go ahead and leaves. Now, while we're looking at that, we get a little bit of banter between Monica and Sword. Man, Hayward is actually, he's being a butt. Monica's kind of telling him, hey, now we don't have any trust from Wanda. You kind of cut us off at the knees because you shot that missile at her. And she came out, as y'all saw the last episode, she drags the drone out and, she tosses it. Now, this drone is still glowing red, and I'm pretty sure they're going to use this in some capacity, maybe against her or in the future, but it's still glowing red when they actually bring it out, because he's like run a diagnostic on it. And man, Hayward said some pretty hurtful stuff. He's like, you're always kind of sticking up for these enhanced humans or whatnot, and you're kind of impeding the progress of our mission here, which is to stop Wanda. And Monica is kind of like, she's the problem. If we've already figured that out, and the only thing we can know at this point is she's going to be the solution, because if we kill her, we don't know what's going to happen to the people inside that she's connected to, and we don't know what's going to happen out here, which is absolutely true. They're kind of bullheading their way into this. And then Wu kind of speaks up and says, yeah, you can't outgun her at this point. Like, she's way more powerful than you all just shooting a problem or trying to figure out a way to barge in there. And Hayward's not having it. And he's, like I said, he says some pretty hurtful stuff. And then he says, I'm glad you weren't here when your mom died. And I'm like, if I was Monica, I would have slapped him. But she didn't. She held her cool. She waited. And when the guards escorted her out, which I would have slapped him, that's why I would have got escorted out. But she gets escorted out, her, Darcy, and Wu. And Wu and Monica actually fight the guards. And that's it. They actually get away, and then they go in to try to do hacker stuff. It's so cliche. Darcy is saying the cliche hacker stuff while she's getting into the computer. But in any case, that's what they're doing. Now, we flash back into the bubble, and we see Wanda and Pietro, and we see the boys, Wiccan and Speed. They're all dressed up because Quicksilver ran and got Speed his costume, so he looks like Quicksilver, which is all of them have their old school costumes on now, which is pretty cool. Once again, cool callbacks to the comics. Now, moving forward, as they're walking, they start asking some clever meta questions, like Wanda asked him a question about their childhood in the orphanage. And he kind of dodges the question. He doesn't really answer. He's like, I know you're testing me. And she was like, oh, no, I'm not. But she really was. I feel like she was definitely testing him. And as they are speaking, she's like, he's like, I know I look a little different. And then she asked him like a little meta question there. And she's like, well, why do you look different? Which is pretty funny, because he's not the same actor. And he was like, I don't know. That's a question I would be asking you. I mean, if I found Shangri-La, quick Easter egg, me being the smart guy that I am, Shangri-La is a reference to a utopia or make-believe land, which that's what Wanda has created here. So he basically makes the joke, hey, if I found Shangri-La, I wouldn't want to be reminded of the past either. So when you brought me back as the other Quicksilver. You didn't really want to remember the Quicksilver that got shot, because he's like, I remember getting shot like a chump in the street, and then I heard you calling me, and so I showed up. And like previously, earlier in the episode, he was just kind of telling her, hey, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to cause some tension between you and your husband, and I'm here to play with the kids and ultimately cause you grief at the end of the day. And that's crazy, because that's exactly what he's doing. And he's basically describing himself as if he was, well, he's in a TV show, but he's describing himself or talking to her as if he's in a TV show as well. So he's like really like fourth wall breaking at this point. So, basically he's basically telling her, I'm here because you willed me here. And that's pretty important, because when she turns back around, she sees him as, you know, at one point in the episode, she sees him as dead. It's kind of like she's seen Vision a few episodes back. And one of my subscribers actually asked me, you know, why is she seeing them dead? And the reason why is because, you know, they indeed are dead. She brought them back in some capacity. Now, Vision, his actual parts are brought back. Quicksilver, I'm not exactly sure how he came back, because at this point it wouldn't be a body or anything. So maybe kind of like the twins, but I don't know if any of the at this point we know we don't know how it's going to happen if the hex breaks, if Quicksilver is going to disappear, if the kids are going to disappear. At this point in the episode, we don't know if Vision is going to disappear. So we're going to get to that in a second anyway. So Speed Tommy manifests his powers. He starts moving at super speed, which is pretty cool. And that's the cool thing. Now, in the meanwhile, like Darcy and Wu are still doing their hacking and whatnot. And now it's pretty crazy, because she tells them not to go past Ellis Lane. And we find out why, like right after that, because Vision is kind of walking down the street, and as he's walking further and further toward the barrier, as Wu and Darcy are seeing, when the people aren't moving out there. And Vision like looks at this woman, and she's like continuously trying to hang this ghost, and you can see like tears dropping from her eyes. So basically the mind control is keeping her doing what she's supposed to be doing. However, she mentally is trying to break it. It's kind of like Get Out, like being in the sunken place. Like she couldn't move, she couldn't fight it, but her mind wasn't okay with what was going on. So they and we're gonna fast forward and talk about that, because Quicksilver and Wanda actually have one more discussion that kind of describes what's actually going on here. So Vision is like, he's like walking through, he's starting to see that everybody's kind of stuck in place, and then he has a conversation. He sees Agnes. Now I feel like Agnes may have been trying to get out. She said she took a wrong turn, and she asked him where is the festival going on, and she was like, I guess I got lost. And he was like, in a place that you grew up in. And Vision uses his powers, because mind you he does possess some powers from the Mind Stone. He normally has the Mind Stone here, but of course we know the Mind Stone is put back or destroyed or whatever. But his original self did have powers of the Mind Stone. So that's why, if you don't know, that's why when he touches their heads, he can break the spell that's going on. And I believe that's why, on some level, he can fight what Wanda is doing, because her powers come from the Mind Stone, and the Mind Stone itself was in his head. So all crazy things that are going on here with the Mind Stone. And excuse me, we did see at one point that the Mind Stone has some type of control. So I'm not sure exactly if the Mind Stone is manifesting itself or what's going on here. But in any case, he's able to break the spell. Agnes tells him, basically, you're an Avenger. This is really good, guys. You're an Avenger. And she tells him he's dead. And so he doesn't know what the heck an Avenger is. So now we find out that Wanda is on some level controlling what he can remember and think as well. He's not completely free at all. And I guess that we all kind of knew that with, you know, her rewinding time and everything with the beekeeper and whatnot. But it's a little bit deeper than that, because he doesn't have his own memories, all of them anyway. So after Agnes kind of starts going a little bit hysterical, he puts her back under the trance, and he promises her that he's going to get her out. So after this, Vision starts walking closer and closer to the barrier. Now, while this is going on, Monica is trying to devise a plan to get back into the bubble. Now, Darcy shows her blood work, and she's telling her that she's been changed on a molecular level. Now, me personally, and I'm pretty sure every nerd out there got super excited, because we all feel like this is where Monica gets her powers. Now, if you're not, comic book buff or anything like that, Monica is at this point, she was Captain Marvel at one point. Then she was Photon, and now she's Spectrum. So Monica, what I want you to do, whichever name you pick, don't let nobody steal it, because everybody's always stealing your name. Keep your name, whatever it's gonna be. Yeah, she is at this point, Spectrum, one of the most powerful people in comics right now, along Blue Marvel. Her and him together are a powerful 1-2 punch. But not to get too far into comics, if y'all want to get into that and Blue Marvel, check out my boy's Jensen's Worlds page. He actually has a Spotify podcast about Blue Marvel and all of that. So in any case, moving forward, she tells her, if you go back through, we don't know what'll happen to you. And she's like, look, forget all that. I know what Wanda's going through as far as grief, and I'm going to help her through this. She's determined to help her through all of this. So she makes a plan to get back into the bubble. While her and Wu go off, Darcy says, hey, you know what? I'm going to stay here because I'm trying to crack the code on what else Hayward has going on here. Of course, Hayward's being sneaky. He hasn't shown everybody everything, so she's trying to crack the code on what's going on. Meanwhile, while that's going on, Quicksilver starts questioning Wanda on how she did everything. Like, first and foremost, he's like, where have you been keeping the kids up until this point? And that's a good question, because when they had the magic show for the kids, as they kept saying, you saw no kids. And we see no kids up until we seen Billy and Tommy, aka Wiccan and Speed. And then after this, on Halloween, you see all the kids. And so Quicksilver's like, have they been asleep in their beds? And now Wanda now understands that Quicksilver understands outside of everybody what's going on. It's only her and him that actually understand what's going on. And even other people that understand, they can't really speak freely on what's going on because of Wanda's mind control. So Quicksilver is placed here, and he's not affected by Wanda's mind control. You can tell at least for the most part he's not affected by her mind control on what's going on. Like if you rewind to the beginning of the episode, you can actually see Quicksilver looking into the camera as Wiccan is talking and his Malcolm in the Middle monologue. So it's like he's not controlled by what's going on. So in any case, he asked her about the kids. He asked her about the ethics of everything. He's like, she asked him, do you think what I'm doing is wrong? He was like, looks like, you gave the people, the couple stayed together. They got better jobs, made a joke about haircuts, fundamentally keeping them the same on most levels, while still mind controlling them to stay in the bubble to be their neighborhood. So, he kind of calls her out on it, but at the same time tells her, hey, you know what? It's not all bad. Is it, you made this thing and these are real people, but you made this as ethically okay as possible. So he kind of tells her she's wrong, but at the same time tell her, hey, keep going what you got going. And this point is when she sees him as the dead him. So that's cool. And then we move forward. Vision tries to break the barrier. He does break the barrier, and he starts to fall apart. So we know at this point that Vision can't live outside of this barrier, because as soon as he starts to actually come away from the barrier itself, he's telling the sword people, hey, you have to help. And he's like breaking completely apart, and he's being pulled, pieces of him being pulled back. And at this point is when Wiccan, aka Billy, he actually starts to manifest his powers, and he can telepathically hear his dad. And he tells his mom, hey, dad is hurting, he's dying, I can see him. And Wanda kind of freaks out and tells him to focus. And then Quicksilver says something that I wouldn't have said to Wanda, but hey, it's a brother. And he's like, why are you worried about your dead husband? It's not like he can die twice. And she just basically power pushes him away. And so he lands over there. Wiccan and Speed are kind of shaken up by the whole situation. But Wiccan, aka Billy, is able to calm himself and focus on what's going on. And then Wanda does something I didn't think she would do, because it seemed like at the edge, her powers are starting to show their limitations because the people are frozen instead of moving like the people more toward the center. But she expands the actual barrier. Now, cool thing about this for her is most of the sword people that were on the base, they're now under her control at some capacity. Now, this may make her go a little bit more, I guess crazy would be the good word to say, or anger her a little bit more, because now her powers are expanded. And with any type of power like that, I mean, as Quicksilver kind of pointed out earlier in the episode, you've moved a long way from giving people nightmares like she did with everybody in Age of Ultron, and shooting the little what do you call them, spirally doogity doos. She's gone from that to being able to mind control a whole town pretty much and create whatever she wants. She's rewriting what they're wearing. She's rewriting their cells on some level, and we'll talk about that here at the end as well. So she's doing all of this, and then her powers have multiplied. She was barely able to contain an explosion, and now she's able to control a whole city. That's crazy. So with that being stated, the episode ends with her expanding the barrier, encompassing most of the sword people except for Hayward. Now, I saw Darcy get encompassed, but I didn't see, y'all tell me if y'all saw Monica and Wu, because they were in the truck and they were driving, so I don't know if they got encompassed. It seemed like they got away, but I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm not completely sure. But Hayward did get away, and he's calling back to the base. Nothing, because Wanda's taking, you can see all of them turned into like carnival clowns. And one of my group members in one of my groups that I'm in made a joke, and he was like, Wanda said that all the sword people were clowns in the last episode, and then they absolutely turned into clowns in this episode. So that was pretty funny to me. In any case, all the references were absolutely awesome. They even made a kick-ass reference, which is the movie that Evan Peters and the other Quicksilver played in, which was pretty cool. They actually played in together, and at that point, the other guy was Kick-Ass, and he was like his sidekick or whatnot, or somebody that kind of was one of his best friends through the movie. So it was, like I said, it was pretty cool that they included that. Now, that being stated, I think Wanda at this point, like I said, I honestly feel like with her expanding the barrier, this is going to weigh heavy on what she can do as far as her powers. And the jump from being able to, do nightmares in people's heads kind of push them toward seeing their fears. And then now she can push people toward doing pretty much whatever she wants at this point. That's still a pretty big jump, even after Endgame. Her powers were progressing, and they were already progressing from her barely being able to fend off Thanos to basically almost crushing him when and maybe it's because he had the Infinity Stones or whatnot. But man, she almost. I mean, if it wasn't for the ship blitz, man, she almost took Thanos out of there. So, I mean, she's progressed pretty fast, but I think this progression is a huge leap, and she's not focusing on one person. That being stated, I'm thinking that somebody else is maybe multiplying her power or working with her on some level. I'm honestly under the impression that it's probably Mephisto or Nightmare, because Nightmare was supposed to be the next villain for Doctor Strange. So that's my money's on either Mephisto or Nightmare. More so Nightmare than Mephisto, just because that was who was hinted to be the next villain in Doctor Strange 2, which this WandaVision is supposed to be leading into Doctor Strange 2 and Spider-Man. Also, that being stated, I did read a little comment on Reddit. I posted it on my page, that it did show that Wanda's issues and struggles with this grief that she's going through is actually going to expand into these other two movies. So, man, We got a lot to look at, a lot to cover. Guys, I do want to go ahead and cover the rest of these episodes. I love making these videos for you guys. We'll make this maybe one more time for the next episode. But I hope you enjoy the drink. Check out the link to how to make it. Please like, share, subscribe. It's been your favorite bartender, A5 Cup of Coffee. It's been a pleasure, and I'm out.